Welcome to today's explainer. Let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to the microscopic world that literally builds everything around us. We're going to be exploring the hidden architecture of life itself. Think about this for a second. If you take a massive redwood tree, a complex animal like a dog, or, even yourself, and you break it down into the absolute tiniest living piece, what are you left with? What is the fundamental unit of life? Well, to find that answer, here is our roadmap. 1. The smallest unit of life. 2. The three main parts. 3. Prokaryotic vs. eukaryotic cells. 4. Plant versus animal cells. And 5. The cellular summary. Section 1. The smallest unit of life. So the cell isn't just some random part of living things. It is the absolute fundamental building block. It's the basic structural and functional unit of life. Structural because, well, it physically stacks together to build form, kind of like biological Lego bricks. And functional because it contains all the microscopic machinery that actually carries out the processes keeping an organism alive. To really put this into perspective, every everyday living thing you see out there, from the trees in your neighborhood to the deer in the wild, and yes, absolutely yourself, is constructed entirely out of these tiny units. In fact, you are essentially a walking, talking metropolis made up of roughly 30 trillion interacting cells. How wild is that? Okay, moving to section 2, the three main parts. Now, no matter how incredibly complex a cell gets, it almost always relies on a foundational trio of structures just to survive. We can identify these primary parts as the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. Let's break down the heavy lifting each of these actually does for us. First up is the cell membrane. You can think of this structure as the outer boundary wall. Its main gig is to strictly control exactly what enters and leaves the cell, acting basically like a highly trained security guard. It constantly filters resources, grabbing what it needs, while aggressively protecting the vital contents inside from a pretty chaotic outside environment. Right inside that membrane, we run into the cytoplasm. It's this thick, jelly-like fluid. But hey, don't mistake this for just empty space. This fluid is more like a bustling highway system. It's the highly dynamic environment where all the biological activities, chemical reactions, and the real functional work of the cell are constantly happening. And finally, we have the nucleus. This is functionally the brain of the operation, the ultimate control center. Most importantly, it acts as a highly secure vault for your DNA. And that DNA holds every single genetic blueprint and line of instruction the cell requires to function, grow, and perfectly reproduce itself. Section 3. Prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cells. We can actually divide life into two massive architectural categories. On one side, we have the small, stripped-down prokaryotic cell, which operates without a true nucleus or any membrane-bound organelles. Contrast that with the eukaryotic cell on the other side. This type is significantly larger, way more complex, possesses a true central nucleus to house its DNA, and acts as a host to all sorts of membrane-bound organelles assigned to very specific tasks. If we look closely at a classic prokaryote, like a bacteria, you'll see a total masterpiece of minimalist efficiency. It has a cell wall and a cell membrane for protection, some cytoplasm, ribosomes, and a tail-like flagellum for rapid movement. But notice what's notably missing here. There is no enclosed nucleus. Instead, its DNA just kind of floats free in a region called the nucleoid. It completely trades complexity for rapid, simple survival. All right, section 4. Plant versus animal cells. Now, both plants and animals actually belong to the complex eukaryotic family. This means that despite the massive visual differences we see in the macro world between, say, a green leaf and a furry cat, at the microscopic level, they are fundamentally built on the exact same advanced cellular architecture. An animal cell is just packed with specialized membrane-bound organelles. Alongside our familiar membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus, we see specialized little factories. There are mitochondria cranking out power, ribosomes assembling proteins, and the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus acting as microscopic shipping and manufacturing centers. This intense division of labor is exactly what allows complex animals to thrive. A plant cell shares much of that exact same eukaryotic machinery, but it adds some really unique features necessary for stationary plant life. Because plants don't have skeletons, they rely on a rigid outer cell wall for structural support. They also feature chloroplasts to capture solar energy, since they can't exactly hunt for food, and a large central vacuole to store water and maintain internal pressure. It's a completely different survival strategy.
Section 5. The cellular summary.
When we aggregate all these key differences, the fundamental architecture of life becomes incredibly clear. You can trace the sharp contrast between the simple, nucleus-free prokaryotes and the complex, organelle-rich eukaryotes. And within those eukaryotes, you can easily spot exactly where plants and animals diverge in their cellular equipment to suit their completely different ways of surviving the world. Keep these core takeaways firmly in mind. The cell is the non-negotiable structural and functional unit of life. This microscopic world is primarily split between the stripped-down efficiency of prokaryotes and the larger specialized eukaryotes, which serve as the very building blocks for the complex plants and animals we interact with every single day. I'll leave you to ponder this final, fascinating question about your own biology. If the eukaryotic cell is a sprawling, highly advanced piece of biological machinery, what does that mean for the 30 trillion specialized cells operating inside you right now? Just think about the unimaginable microscopic city keeping you alive at this very second. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I look forward to exploring our next topic together.